our studios in Fishers, Indiana, this is Night Talk, a 30-minute unscripted discussion featuring guests from all over Central Indiana. With tonight's guest, author of Crossroads, Rhonda Parker Taylor, and the moderator of Night Talk, Jacob Pyle.
How you doing?
Good, how are you doing today?
Doing good. Hello everybody and welcome to Night Talk. My guests on the show already know this, but just for the sake of the viewers at home who are watching the show for the first time, for the next 30 minutes, unscripted conversations, but with a difference. No shouting, no cussing, nothing but respectful conversations on the show. All topics that we are discussing on the show have been approved by me before the show taping. My guest for tonight is an American writer, entrepreneur, and academic researcher. I'm going to grab this for just a second. Her recent book is entitled Crossroads, and I am pleased to welcome to Night Talk Rhonda Parker Taylor.
Thank you. It was so good to meet you, and thank you for having me. Welcome everybody out there. I'm so thrilled to engage with you, and I can't wait to see what all of our conversation has today.
So when I was doing I do homework on my guests, you know, as most of you know before the show. When I was doing my research, it said that you were originally from Noblesville, Indiana. Is that true?
That's correct. I was born in Noblesville, Riverview Hospital. Yay! And I grew up there. I went to school at Heritage Christian School from my pre-kindergarten to my senior year. My family still lives in Noblesville. My mother and father founded Noble Industries, a manufacturing company that does a lot of the Firestone parts. And my brother and sister now run Noble Industries, and I live in Indianapolis now.
Cool, awesome. Yeah, I had to bring that up because I actually live in Noblesville myself. So yeah.
It's a wonderful. Hamilton County is about the best in the world.
It is. So let's talk about the books. Well, or let's talk about you. What has your journey as an author in the writing process been like?
Oh my goodness. Everybody has a story. Really, we do. Everybody, and I hear it all the time. I really want to write this book. Well, for me, it was a journey of just self-development and knowing I could do it. I wrote it 20 years ago. It sat on my desk for 20 years. I didn't want to make myself vulnerable to say, hey, look everybody, I did it. And then finally one day I went to do, because it's a series, there's 4 of them, and I went to go get something else off the floppy disk that had all 4 of them in it, and the document had been eaten.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, so I'm looking at, luckily, because I'm kind of one of those fearful people, I had printed all of them. And I looked at it, and I thought, oh my goodness, I'm going to have to type and re-edit every single one of them if I don't do something with it. And then I thought about all the writing mentors I had saying all the best novels are either in someone's head or in someone's closet. And I'm like, okay, it's time. And my sister said, you have to allow yourself to be vulnerable. You write for others all the time. That's what you do for a living. You're an academic researcher. But the reason you're not doing anything with it is because you have to put yourself out there.
True.
That's hard, isn't it?
It is.
It's very hard to put yourself out there.
Yeah. So, can you tell us, for those who have not read the book, and don't give away any spoilers or anything like that, but can you tell us about your book?
Oh, sure. Okay, so Crossroads is based out of Indianapolis. It's about a workaholic that thinks she has everything together. She went to college. She's working in a fictitious, because it is a fictitious book, she works in United Bank of Indiana, which there is no such thing, but United Bank of Indiana in Indianapolis in the AUL building.
Okay.
And if you remember, the AUL building is now, I think, Salesforce building, and she gets called for jury duty of a murder of a 15-year-old girl.
Wow. Okay.
And that event with it, we all try to get out of jury duty. Boy, she tried like heck to get out of it. How many of you tried to get out of jury duty? But of course they don't let you. And she ended up being the foreman, and her whole life unfolds. First of all, she's exposed to people that she normally wouldn't associate with in the jury room. She's also exposed to the legal system. And she realizes that some part of her life is just not what she intended it to be, and that her life is unbalanced. And then people start getting sick around her. They start dying. And then we don't want to be a spoiler alert, but there's a true lesson in it. So I think when I wrote it, I thought it was about the jury, which we all like jury books, but it really also revealed thoughts about our relationships with people and how we develop them.
Okay, cool. What story would you like to highlight?
Out of the book? Or out of life?
I'll tell you what, I think, I think you pretty much told the book in the little segment thing. So, but in life,
I think what I would like everybody in life, and think about it. When you have relationships, we compare ourselves so much all the time that we literally tear ourselves apart. And one of the lessons learned in Crossroads is anger is cruel. And this comes out of Proverbs. And that's true, anger is cruel.
Right.
Fury is overwhelming, which all of those things could cause a crime.
Right.
But Proverbs says, but who can stand before jealousy? Envy makes the bones rot.
Right.
And really, when you think about it, it does. It destroys. If I were envious about your job, which I think broadcasting is wonderful, I may never become an author.
Yeah, not really.
Because I would be so worried about trying to be you that I'm not me. And it's vice versa. And then it destroys that relationship. And my dad always said, because there was 5 of us growing up in Noblesville, and back then there was a lot of cows, not as many buildings, and he would always say, life isn't fair, stop comparing yourself. You're robbing yourself of joy. True.
That's very true. All right. At what age did you realize your fascination with books?
Well, I would have said, not until I got older. But I went back and I was looking at pictures and I always had a book in my hand. But you know what? I was never good academically back then. So when someone thinks that, maybe this or that, I had to have a tutor in English. And it was because there were some learning issues there. But I always had a book. I liked encyclopedias and I liked reading things I wasn't supposed to. I was one of those children that wanted to see all the world, or maybe I got the book Carmen, or something that was, not considered necessarily age appropriate, or had lots of pictures.
Yeah.
So I do. I have books when I was 3, pictures of me holding a book at 3 years old.
Wow. I know one of my favorite books growing up was the Dr. Seuss books.
Yeah.
Cat in the Hat, How to
Green eggs,
Christmas, things like that.
Green eggs and ham.
Green eggs and ham. All right. When did you start writing?
Well, academically, obviously, I went to school, got associates, bachelor's, master's, and a doctorate. And I started writing in one of the writing classes. And one of the first writing classes that you have to take is the 101. And they wanted you to do your first memory. And it took me forever. And then I remembered the destruction of my pink blanket. And that was the first essay I wrote. And it was the pink blanket that I had when I was a kid when they decided I needed to give it up. I'd carried it probably till, I don't know, if I would probably still be carrying it if they allowed me to keep it.
Alright, we are going to take our first break. We'll be back with more of Rhonda Parker Taylor right after this message. Alright. Welcome back. My guest for today is author of Crossroads, a suspense novel, Rhonda Parker Taylor. Alright, now, we talked a little bit about your book in the first segment. What is the lesson of your book?
The lesson is, it's twofold. Life balance. The first one is you can think you're on the right path in your life, and like for instance, for me, work is a core value. And when I went through and I had to rethink my life, I had to realize, wait a minute, you aren't doing the things that make you happy. And so when I wrote the book, I realized, that's kind of what I was writing about the character. It was like, okay, it's time to find what you really enjoy. An example, I thought it was balanced. Mm-hmm. I thought, okay, I did the work and I did the home and I did the entertainment and the exercise, but then I was like, okay, wait a minute, but what are you really doing for yourself? My time was watching TV.
Really?
TV wasn't in the top 5 things that I wanted to be doing.
That was exactly mine too. I used to watch them old TV shows and cartoons growing up. So
yeah, so I had to say, okay, well, what do you really enjoy? Well, first, I loved cooking, and I used to love to entertain, but I didn't have as much time to entertain, and I feed people, and do that socialization. So I was like, well, why am I not cooking for myself? DoorDash is nice,
True.
But you know what? It's better when it's hot and you made it the way you like it, and why aren't you doing that? So I really had to rethink what my life balance goals were for myself. I took a few weeks and I pulled out a workbook that I had created for my classes because I was a college professor on life balance, and I made myself do the exercises, and I did a 3-5-year plan of all the things I wanted to do, like what vacations did I want to do, what did I want to do in my home. I had to get myself up and move, and I'm not talking moving just for exercise. I'm talking about moving to enjoy my house, my life, and sit in different rooms. Why do you decorate your house if you're not going to use each room? Right. Or if you're not going to use each piece of furniture that you picked out. So lay back in that lounge chair once in a while that you're afraid is too pristine. So the life lesson of the book is not only just the murder mystery, it's what is it that brings you that joy? And as you discover it through Paris's life, I'm hoping that the readers also say, okay, what is it that I like? And then also, who can you trust really in your life? Who is your backbone? Sometimes we put false loyalties out there. And that's what Paris did. She was a loyal person, but you know what? Who was loyal to her? And that's what you have to decide. Are you putting the effort into your own life? Are you doing all the things to make you happy that you want to make happy?
So, how did you overcome adversity?
Oh my goodness. If you knew my life, I don't know about your life, but my life has been a game of uncle.
Really?
Yes. I like to go all the way to the edge and then play the game of uncle, and then when my hands are bleeding, then I say, okay, it's time to change. Yeah. I give up. All right, Lord, I give it to you, whatever it might be. But I've also had where my choice, there's 2 ways that adversity can happen. I've had life tragedy, I've had, relationship tragedies at different points, but one thing that you have to realize is you have to have your storage already there in resilience. If you're not putting things in place when things aren't adverse, when life hits, it's going to take you all the way to the edge, and you won't want to get out of bed. So for me, I try to put things daily in my life, whether it be vitamin D from the sun, whether it be trying to stay up on top of my stuff. You know, I adopted a young man in his 13 year. He was 13 years old, and him and his mother and I raised him. And he was adult. He had kids. He was working. He got shot and killed.
Oh,
so we not only raised him together, we had to bury him together.
Right.
And the justice system let us down. They let him go. Because they didn't have the witnesses. All the witnesses were dead. He was a bouncer. So, when those moments come, I don't know how you do it, but the first thing is your emotions go everywhere. So I try to just pull it in for just a second. One time I saw a crack in the foundation of the wall. They go all the way up to the ceilings. And what I did is I just followed the crack, just for that moment of that bad news, to say, you know what, you got this. And then I do Frosty. You said you like the comics and the children's things. Frosty the Snowman. Put one foot in front of the other, and soon you'll be out the door.
Yes.
So once you get that moment together of, wait a minute, I'm panicking, I can't handle this, is this too much? You just put one foot. And then hopefully you don't melt.
I will say this, because I've been in similar shoes with my mom. My mom passed away of cancer back in 2016, and she was the best mom like a person could ever ask
That's
for.
Wonderful.
And she, when she died, I couldn't really. I guess at the time I couldn't really. We all have to die. We all die at some point in our lives, but when my mom passed away, it took me. I had to really take a summer off or a couple months off just to kind of figure out where to go from here, where my life is, things like that, and then eventually, I came to the realization that I just during all that time I just thought of the good memories my mom and I had, and it was
the joy.
The joy. Yeah.
You have to find the joy in the adversity. My mom died of cancer too.
Oh, really?
She died in 2004, September 19th.
Wow.
And then, believe it or not, my son was killed 4 years later, September 19th.
Wow.
And in adversity, joy is always there too. You just have to find it. So if you're out there and you're going through something, it's so important that you just find, whether it's the being with the other people that are struggling, or if it's some kind of joke that's just not even really a good joke, but it made you laugh, or a walk in the middle of it. Or I can remember my sister kept finding change on the floor. Everywhere she went, she would find a nickel or a dime or whatever, and she said, I don't know why I keep picking it up. And that was her joy. Or a bird. When my father was struggling with emphysema, I was driving to take care of him, and of course you're tired when you're taking care of a person, but you have to do it, and it's the right thing to do, and you're committed to it. And I'm driving, and a red-winged blackbird flew and sat down on my mirror, my side view mirror, and I took a picture of it. I had to, but then I was like, okay, I have to pull off, and I was afraid to hurt the bird, and so I'm driving real careful. I got to tell my dad, I showed him the picture on my phone, and he said, that's my favorite kind of bird.
Really?
So I looked at that as that special moment. One, I learned something from my father, and two, every time I see one now, I think he's visiting me.
It's awesome. That's a good memory. Okay, so we got about 26 or 25 seconds in the break. So quickly, tell the viewers how to purchase the book.
Okay. So Crossroads is a suspense novel based out of Indianapolis. You can purchase it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble's website, most retailers online. Also, there's signed copies at the Keystone at the Crossing, Barnes & Noble, and the Greenwood Mall Barnes & Noble, if you want to purchase a signed copy.
Awesome. All right, when we come back from this last break, Jay Dow is going to have a preview of next week's show, and we will conclude our conversation with Rhonda Parker Taylor. Stay with us. All right, welcome back to Night Talk. My guest has been Rhonda Parker Taylor, who has this amazing book out called Crossroads, a suspense novel. And Rhonda Parker Taylor has a question she wants to ask Jay Dow.
Hey Jay, who's the guest next week?
Join us on Night Talk next week, where Jacob's guest will be singer and songwriter Luke Austin Doherty. Back to you guys.
Okay. Thank you, Jay, very much. So, how do you develop your characters in the book?
For me, I have because of my background in academic writing, I do it like a research project. Mm-hmm. Your medical viewers will like this. I do what's called a SOAP note. When you go into a doctor's office, they ask you all these questions from head to toe. And so I learned about your family background, what their medical is, what their history of mental illness is, and I go through and I start, okay, the first character is 5'4", and all the colors of the eyes, and do they have a tic, do they have a stutter, what do they have, and go all the way through their medical history. And then I go and I find a picture of a person that's like that so that I have a vision. And then I turn around and say, well, what kind of house would this person have? What kind of job would they have? So I just kind of meticulously create my own little world. And then when I do that, I know that I have a structure also that I can make sure that everything's consistent throughout the book. If a person has emphysema, they're going to have a cough. If they have anxiety, there's certain characteristics of a person with anxiety. And if they have depression, that they're going to go through down phases and have a flat effect. And so it's just very methodical, and that way I get to know them too and their struggles. If they're higher energy, low energy, are they a whiner, or are they, because how they would present themselves to other people and their SOAP note, and in questions with whether it be a psychiatrist or a doctor, tells you a lot about people.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned stutter, because I have to point out something to the viewers. If you guys noticed the last, a couple of times, I have a very big stuttering problem. Literally, if I do not have a script or something to read in front of me, sometimes I always say that my brain is slower than my mouth. Mm-hmm. So so I've had times when, just now, I'm trying to come up with something to say and then I stutter. That's my biggest thing.
Well, so for me, I work too fast. Mm-hmm. I do everything fast. I'll be typing and I know exactly what I'm saying. I can even have my glasses on. Sometimes I might not have my glasses on. As soon as I hit send, there's about 10 typos in it. And I swear it said the right thing. I swear it did, but my mind is going so fast. And I think that's why when I was younger, I struggled so hard in English. I flunked my English proficiency test in high school. I wasn't going to graduate. If it hadn't been for a teacher taking me under her wing and tutoring me, I wouldn't have made it.
Ah, right. Okay, how do you find joy and life balance?
Oh, it's a everyday struggle. I work from my home, so it's very easy to just let the computer consume me. So what I try to do is every hour I make myself get up and go do something in the house that's appropriate, and then I go back to work. The other thing I do is every 3 to 5 years, I go back through that exercise, and I'll be publishing, I call it it's called Crossroads, the Life Balance Path to Journey. It's just a self-help book that just takes you through, okay, let's refocus. Because we all get out of balance. You know, it could be because a loved one's ill, or we have work priorities. Something can pull us out in a heartbeat. And so I have to remind myself, it's not something that comes natural. Someone told me one time, if you want to drink the number of glasses of water every day, you can't count on you to do it. You have to set a timer that I need to drink 8 ounces of glasses of water. Because if you don't have a system, you just don't do it. It's easier just to go in there and grab what's cold and sugary drink.
Okay, so now I'm going to start, I'm going to start throwing some topics now. We still have about 4 minutes left until the end of the show.
Let's do it.
So, we're going to start off with emotional intelligence. Tell us about that.
Okay, so I did a study on it, on the multinational leaders versus domestic leaders. Emotional intelligence is the process of identifying the emotions of others before you react. So if I'm presenting something to you like as an employee or a subordinate or even a superior or a child, you have to take into account the emotions that they go through, because you can't predict anything until you take that into account. You can't guide a teenager if you don't take their feelings into account. So emotions, you first identify the emotions they're going through, then you process it, then you come up with a conclusion together, and then you turn around and react appropriately to their emotions, not what we're trying to get done. And the funny thing about the test on emotional intelligence that we did is there's 21 different characteristics of a person that has high emotional intelligence. The domestic leader ranked lower in every single one of the categories except for one, which was self-impression of themselves. They thought they were bigger and better than the one that was the multinational leader and worked in several countries.
Wow, okay. All right, life learning leadership. What are your thoughts on that?
Life learning leadership. I think see where your people are. You know, you can say, I want to give a $100 gift card to Ruth Chris so they can have a steak. Well, what if their car's not working? Or what about the tip? Or what if they don't feel like comfortable? So you got to meet your employees where they are. How about a day off for their birthday?
Right.
Celebrate them. Celebrate their struggles. What about the fact that you hear their car is clunking all the way to work when you get in your car and it's running nice, but you see theirs isn't? Right. You know, meet them where they are and realize that Maslow's law was there for a reason, and it's to remind us that there's a hierarchy to self-actualization. You can't be self-actualized if you haven't filled all that hierarchy, their safety needs, their social needs. So if you don't meet them where they're at, it's not going to motivate.
Okay. All right. Balancing home and career.
Balancing home and career is one of the most important things a person can do for their mental health. It really is.
Yes.
I mean, how can you be mentally healthy if you're stressed out?
Right.
Or rested out? There's the opposite of stressed out, which is rested. You're not motivated, you don't want to do anything, you're not getting the joy out of your life. So if you're not, balance can go both ways. It's not just piling everything on, it's taking everything, oh, I can't do that, oh, I don't want to do that, that's not my responsibility. Well, you're resting out then, because you're not challenging yourself.
Okay. We have time for one more. Personal development.
Personal development is a lifelong journey. If you're not developing yourself, you feel left behind.
Yeah.
Technology, if you're not, how are you going to get a job if you haven't learned the technology? You don't have to be an expert. But my generation, there was one computer in the school.
Right.
Now there's computers everywhere, and people are dropping out of good fields because they're not taking a class.
Yeah. Back in 2012, I did one of my first podcasts that I did. We did a skit on, I can't remember the name of it, but it was like a game show parody skit, and one of the guys that came on was like, well, he wanted to be an architect, and so it was like, you can either be an architect and this is just a fake simulation. Let's just say like he cheated in I-STEP, and he never really learned mathematics, and he said you can either get a part-time job, or you can either get or you can live a miserable life on the streets. And he said, but I really want to be an architect. And I told him at the end, I said, I hate to have to be the one telling you this, but in order to be an architect, you have to know mathematics.
Right.
So, and that's true.
Yep.
All right. Well, as I always say around here, we could go on talking forever, but unfortunately, as far as the show is concerned, that is the end of our conversation because we're out of time. We have a little tradition that we do as the credits roll here. Carol Burnett on the old Carol Burnett show used to do this. I have an autograph book, and would you do the honors of signing the autograph book? And while I say thank you so much for watching, my guest for tonight is Rhonda Parker Taylor. Buy her book, and I will be back next week with another guest for you. Till then, for Rhonda Parker Taylor and our very own Jay Dow, I'm Jacob Pyle. Thank you all for watching, and good night, everybody.
If you want to be a guest on Night Talk, or if you would like a DVD copy of tonight's program, send Jacob an email. His email address is jtpile1@aol.com. Or if you're ordering a DVD copy of the program, send $10 check or money order to Night Talk, care of Pile Media Ventures, Post Office Box 154, Noblesville, Indiana, 46061. Please include the air date seen on your screen when ordering. Residents outside of Indiana at $5 shipping and handling. This is Jay Dowell speaking for Night Talk, a Pile Media Ventures presentation. This program was pre-recorded